Living with Parkinson's, a daily journey with struggles and small victories. From start to finish, the journey is about grit, determination, and love for one another. With reflections on the recent Portland to Coast Relay, here's Heather Kennedy with It's Not About the Race.
Good morning. This is It's Not About the Race. I'm Heather Kennedy for Kathleen Kiddo. Today, I want to talk about heroic humans. Not heroes per se, but humans doing heroic things. If you have Parkinson's, you probably know your sense of smell is one of the first things to go. But you know what I can still smell from a mile off? Performative activism. Show me someone who looks like a freaking hero, and I'll show you someone who's investing their resources into looking like a freaking hero. If they accidentally do some good and raise some money or visibility for a cause, that's great and all, but hear me now. Performative activism is pernicious. It's distracting, it's self-aggrandizing, and it undermines the real work being done by people whom you've never heard of. Or maybe you've heard of them, but you may not think of them at first because they're actually about the cause and not about their own limelight. Meet Davis Phinney. Davis was a Tour de France cyclist. He was fast as hell. Speed, agility, and sheer balls. He makes Lance Armstrong look like a piker. He married a 3-time Olympian named Connie. When he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, they started a foundation instead of resting on their laurels. They started it with private donations on a shoestring budget, and they hired this woman named Polly to run the day-to-day operations. A mutual acquaintance introduced me to Polly, and I knew immediately, because you can always tell, I knew I was experiencing the real deal. Some might call it the special sauce. As an example, Polly isn't in this for credit. She's tough and pragmatic and real. She's just the kind of person who commits. And she's a big part of why I volunteer for this foundation, because they're genuinely doing work that makes people's lives easier. Everyone I've interacted with at this particular place has been supportive and caring and understanding. Not at some vanishing horizon of a future where science can just wave a magic eraser at Parkinson's disease and scrub it out of the human equation, because enough millions were thrown at the research. Now, today, living well. Recently, I was in a major bind because I needed to travel to a Parkinson's event. I'm a volunteer. I often use my own money and time and resources, and I don't really make much of it either. But this time I couldn't find a travel companion, and it was hard. I can't handle airports and train stations on my own. I can't even get out to the curb in time when I call a Lyft or an Uber or a cab because they don't wait that long. And I have dystonia and bradykinesia, so think absolute paralysis. Pretend you're in quicksand or drowning in an icy pool with a wool blanket and a suit of armor. That's what it feels like. I just can't move. And I was devastated to think I might have to cancel. But Polly, just in conversation with me, made sure that didn't happen. I was simply explaining to her the situation I was in because I was late with some content we had agreed upon. And she's like, "What's going on?" Out of nowhere, a woman named Kayla, someone whom I'd never met in person, showed up at my door with a bag of clothes from Target in my size because she magically knew my size and that I'd been too dystonic to do the laundry. On this trip, she had an assortment of gluten-free snacks. She brought me lunch, and she magically knew somehow I had celiac disease because Davis Phinney Foundation listens. She got me to the airport. She came in with me. She took me through security, explained to TSA about my brain implant, and made it clear that I was disabled and not drunk. She waited at the gate and made sure I physically got to the plane before she left. I've never been so bowled over by pure gratitude. I mean, there have been very few times that this has happened in my life. This woman was a virtual stranger, and Polly asked her to help, and she did. That's what advocacy looks like, folks. That's how we do it. It doesn't look like money and TV interviews. It doesn't look like a plutonium-fueled DeLorean gull wig. And I say that as gently as possible because without Michael, Parkinson's wouldn't even be on the map. A larger group with his name is doing research on a level that far surpasses my understanding and they'll no doubt help future generations. Who knows, maybe they'll crack the code. Finally. Yet it's important to be seen and heard in an arena brimming with individuals who feel marginalized, ignored by the cool kids, and quite invisible. There's really nothing like the feeling of knowing you've been seen and partially understood, at least, even if it's only by a few people. See, maybe someone will really find a cure for Parkinson's by talking to a senator, but I likely won't be there to see it because, the Senate won't get around to curing it before it takes me out. I don't have much time. I know how this goes. So I'd like to suggest that we really need to honor and celebrate the people who quietly show up, because they know that if they don't, no one will. They know because many of them have it. They know because they ask. They involve people with Parkinson's regularly. And they acknowledge us. And they applaud us. And they keep us moving. So I just want to give the Davis Phinney Foundation a gigantic round of applause and urge people to learn a little about what they do, because you won't hear it from them. They're too busy doing it to toot their own trumpet about it. These people are the antidote to keyboard activism. They make having a frightening, life-shortening condition suck a little less. Right now, in the moment, when it matters. These are the humans doing heroic things. Big thank you to Davis Phinney Foundation. This has been It's Not About the Race. I'm Heather Kennedy, and thanks for joining this special podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to It's Not About the Race with Heather Kennedy. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening right now so you won't miss upcoming episodes. This podcast is produced by Griggs Productions.